keep on running.
All right. Hey, Wolfpack. What's going on? So, I want to open up with a quick story, and then we're gonna get into an icebreaker. So I have had kind of a strange transition from one year to the next. I ended last year dealing with a very severe flare-up of back pain, which is something I've gotten further and further away from as I've gone through a healing journey the last couple of years. But it was severe, like really, really severe, really bad. Um, and there was a note of discouragement in that, right? Like I've lived with chronic pain in my back for 15 years, but there was also something in me that was kind of like I feel like this is like here for something, and it's maybe a final frontier. This is like a new part of my back that's bothering me, but it's because I've built strength in other areas, and my shoulder blade pain that has normally been a problem is mostly gone. It will flare up if things get bad, but not like it used to. I'm like, this might be like the final piece, but I have to build strength in a few other areas to get things kind of in balance. And so I suffered through that and just endured it kind of, but I held on to hope, as hope has been our thing, right? And I started this new part-time job up at the ski area, and I put in some of the hardest physical labor I have in a very long time, especially for a paycheck, and was on the hill for 6 of 7 days. And I came from the very get-go. My back just was like poof, gone. Strong, focused, fun. I was working and skiing and helping people have fun on powder days and teaching my son to ski in the mix too. All these things, right? It was really powerful. It was really fun. And then I got out of that and I came back into the viridescent world here kind of to start this week. And I had this like really sloggy sort of like overwhelmed, like, oh God, where the fuck to even begin? Like new year, new business, blah, 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 right? All these things. And so I kind of succumbed to that, and again felt I'm like, okay, like I need to process whatever this is. But I need a boost, I need a spark, I need something. And so on Monday, I kind of rested my body a little bit and did some writing. And on Tuesday, I decided to go get some nature. And as soon as I stepped out onto the snowy trail, smile on my face, started to feel better. And then I had a nearly a 2.5 hour lunch with a new friend of the Viraverse, Casey, aka the Solvent. And by the end of that session, I felt super powerful, super, super excited about the year ahead. And it was because I actually opened up to him about some degenerative leadership that I had been kind of at the hands of to end last year. And Jose, you probably know what I'm talking about. Ella, you probably know what I'm talking about. What I didn't realize is that I still needed to open up to someone that was connected to that project, and I met this person through that project. And I did that, and it was incredibly therapeutic and incredibly healing to do that. And I got a lot of support from this person and felt really seen and heard. And the reason I open up with our song today, Run with the Pack, is because our relationships with our packs, right, with our people, they can be inherently regenerative, right? And it's great to have our alter egos and to have our regenerative philosophies and to have our own ways to regenerate ourselves, but sometimes we just simply can't do it without outside help, right? And so today we're gonna wield a little of both. We're going to lean in together and support each other in a little bit of regeneration, but we're also going to connect to our alter egos and some of our elements and explore regenerative philosophy, because my goal for the year ahead for Viridescent is for us to really master our collective efforts, right? These hero bands to really band together and create stories, create things that we can bring out to the world and share, because ultimately that's what this is all about. So really, really grateful to you all, because you have all done that for me along the way. You've given me moments of regeneration, and we're going to do it here together as we kick off the year here in Wonderland. So hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy New Year to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to see you, Jose. It's been a while.
It's been a while, and indeed, Paul, you look great. I have to say, like, since the moment I've met you, you've looked the same. I don't know how you do that. Do you drink a lot of wine?
No, I don't drink very much at all, actually.
Oh, maybe that's I'll think about that.
He did gift my mother a bottle of wine though, one time, and we shared a glass or two. That was fun.
That's cool.
Okay, so there's kind of two different ways we can approach this first exercise. So what we're going to do, kind of walking you through the flow of our session today, is I'm going to take this group for a little bit of a deeper facilitated experience that would be almost like a coaching session that we might offer, and or a quest that Harness Your Hero might take someone on. So I suppose I'm using you all as test dummies a bit as we go through this. Test, what's a better word for that? Test guinea pigs?
What?
I don't know. What's that? Test what?
Yeah, subjects.
Subjects.
Yeah.
All of my royal subjects.
Guinea pigs.
Yes. All right, that's our challenge, or like side quest for the day. Is come up with a better term for. It needs to be like epic and like, you know, your warriors breaking new ground, pioneers. Of course, warriors, pioneers. I don't know. It also is a element of like conquest and colonization and all that. So I'm not so fond of that either.
What was Sam to Frodo? Was he his squire? No. Was he his squire? What was it?
He
Panza?
No. Yeah, I mean also, but I was thinking about Sam and Frodo from The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, the Lord of the Rings. Wasn't he just a companion?
Well, he
He
was,
was,
but there was a word I think that he used, like I'm your something.
yeah.
Googly machine. It says servant. That's not great. but he
Oh,
doesn't say that. I know he doesn't say I'm your servant. Sam's his best friend and servant is gardener. I don't hate gardeners, right? We are kind of in the growth garden. So you guys are going to be our gardeners today. Go figure. There we go. That'll suffice for now. All right. So there's a couple ways we can approach this first exercise. So one is we can do it as a writing exercise. So what I want to have you do is I want you to connect to your alter ego animal first and explore the ways that the animal is regenerative. How is it regenerative in its nature? And I was thinking about the turtle specifically. I have a few ideas on that, but I'm not going to share those just yet because Jose's in control. So what are some of the things that they either do or are, or the way they interact with their environment that has an element of regeneration? So we can do this as a writing exercise, a free write, or we can do it as a kind of group exploratory conversation. One of the things I thought about doing was having us go out into one-on-one breakouts. Since we're a small group, we'll probably just do it in a full group. Sabrina sends regards, by the way. She had a conflict, so she is excited to see us in Sales Fox next week, though. How would you guys like to do it? Would you like to write or would you like to talk?
I'm open to either. I could just talk.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I like
Yeah,
the
I think since I framed us as a little wolf pack here, flexing my alter ego, I think we'll talk. That sounds good. And Ella, are you on mic today, or are you in chat? Thinking in chat. Both? Okay. Well, yeah, we'd love to have you join us on mic as you wish. So, all right, let's talk regenerative animals. Who would like to go first?
Maybe I can kick it out since I'm the turtle here.
Oh, the slow turtle's gonna take its step out there. Nice.
Yeah.
You
I
better
love
start
that.
first, because otherwise you're
Yeah.
gonna get blown away, right?
Yeah, exactly. So recently I watched like a short series called La Palma, and it's a Norwegian series actually. It's really good. And they kind of like ambience this and one of the islands of Spain. It's called La Palma, and there's like this huge volcano. And the first initial sightings that people realize is that they're leaving the island because they are feeling something, right? And they just move away from that, and then everything just kind of start to pivot, and then kind of like the mountain splits in half and creates a big tsunami. But the thing is, like, my reflection was the turtles, like, they were moving as a pack. They were just like going on a current, and they were just leaving, right? So they sensed that something was wrong, and they just kind of like moved from the place, whether they knew it would impact them or not eventually at some point, but they ran away from the situation, and they kind of like isolated. And I don't know if isolated, but they just went to like protect themselves. um and I thought like the beginning of the series with that image for me was like, because especially I love turtles, it was really like interesting to see how animals feel and sense things when they're not in balance, and they just tend to migrate, right? Birds do this, of course, winter and everything, but when things are not really doing well, animals tend to just leave the area and leave us to solve our things. But basically, it's just like that feeling of animals and sense of danger and protection. I think it's a good element, and should use it for whenever we're feeling like that.
Nice. Yeah. Any kind of reactions, comments, or other ideas for the turtle?
Ooh. I mean, I think it feels like it resonates even with what I was thinking about for, tigers, because tigers are an endangered species, and they're constantly having to move away from human encroachment. Um, Although there's, certainly efforts underway to restore their natural habitats, and to try and, keep them from extinction. So in some ways, maybe unlike the turtles, who seem to be able to move away from trouble on their own, tigers are somewhat dependent on human beings in some ways to restore their natural habitats and to leave them alone. And let them just do their thing in the jungle. And when I think about regenerative pieces of tiger, it's that they control their environment in some ways, but like I said, they're still an endangered species, and they're dependent on other forces to keep their habitats intact and restore their habitats. And so there's sort of a symbiotic regenerative thing going on between humans and tigers to some degree. So maybe there's a regenerative piece to that.
That's very
Where
interesting. Yeah,
Paul,
Jose.
where would you draw the line? Because I like you caught my attention with this. Where do you draw the line of balance between animals and humans? Because you were just talking about restoration for habitats and ecosystems. Like, population is growing,
Mm.
and we realize that we are just eating jungles and everything. So where do we draw that line? Is it drawable even?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. it doesn't feel like it's drawable right now. It feels like, we're just encroaching on every single habitat that is possible. But, um, you know, potentially the silver lining to climate change to some degree is that uh, there will be areas where humans won't be able to go anymore because of climate
True.
change. Coastlines and marshlands and places that we've built floodplains and places where wildfires take place, even urban areas like the wildfire in LA right now.
Mm.
you know so it could be that nature will draw the line for us whether we want it to or not.
I love that. Yeah, it always does. It always does.
I have a thought, and I'm trying to decide whether it's too dark or it's actually a really hopeful thing. I can't decide. It's maybe a good opportunity to introduce the provocateur now has his first sub-ego, which is a hope activator. So I'm gonna activate hope in a strange sort of way, because I think uh, you know, Paul, you took something that like it's kind of dark, right? Like tigers are endangered, and it's partially, if not all, our fault. Mostly our fault, maybe not all our fault, but and but you looked at it as like, yeah, but there's like a regenerative thing to that, right? It can be a beacon for how to fix it. You know what I think about it? I think about the whales, right? Like the Save the Whales movement was a legitimately effective movement. And I actually have a playlist. It's called The Machine Degenerates, and there's a block of songs that are all like those songs from like the 70s. Like Yes and Lou Reed, and there's a bunch of them in there. Save the Whales, and it worked, right? And so if we can do it for the whales, why can't we do it for tigers? Why can't we do it for climate and all the things?
Polar bears.
Polar bears, yeah, polar bears. And the reason I say, that there's a note of dark is where my peace has come from in this journey the last 4 years, of kind of changing my perspective on being a change maker and I like a climate warrior, is that I'm pretty much at peace with climate change. And I don't really see like our role of like stopping it or fixing it so much anymore. Um, because the earth has changed a lot over the course of its history, and somebody said in there, right, like nature will draw the line, as it needs to. And if the earth needs to purge us humans from its place so that it can rebirth, there's something about that that kind of gives me peace, because I do love the earth so much. Doesn't mean I hate humans, but what it means to me is that we are not beyond this system. We are a part of it. And so, of course, our call to regenerate the way our species lives is to become symbiotic with our world. That is our sustainability. And whether we do it or not, I get more and more skeptical in some ways and more hopeful in other ways. But regeneration doesn't come easy. It takes real sacrifice, real pain, real death. Like part of the regenerative process is the death of something. And we're going to lean into that a little bit as we go. But just a thought. I don't know if anybody has any comments or reactions to that.
Yeah, I think that that's right, and I think it's so interesting because there's such a kind of conversation debate about population and population growth, and lots of people saying, oh, Americans need to have more babies and Europeans need to have more babies. I'm not so sure that's true. I mean, I think we could use less babies actually at this point. Um, but
And
yeah, but there's
yeah,
I
to
agree.
finish with that. Yeah,
downside.
sorry.
There's the downside to that as well. So
Well, of course, yeah. But I think about, thinking about like equity, right? It's like, the global north, in some ways, right, sucking the life force out of the global south. And it's like, well, do we need more people, right? And maybe we need more people doing good, but do we need more people in general? I don't know. Hmm, Interesting. Jose, and Ella, you guys live in places that can probably understand that mindset. Anything to add or comments that come to mind?
I was just thinking, like, we created this whole economy for it to grow, and it's been like a huge gap of growth.
Hmm.
How can't we just say, okay, this is the limit, and this is how we are going to manage growth and overall wealth? So, I mean, I get the point that we don't need more babies, kind of, in a very cold way to say this. But it's also like, okay, we can give the possibility to people to have babies, but we just need to create this balance, this ultimate balance in between how much we're growing in terms of people and how much we're growing in terms of wealth. And this has to be directly distributed, I would say. There, of course, there can be rich and poor, but I mean, there shouldn't be such much of a gap of wealth if we're having a huge increase in population growth.
Of course, the oligarchs that are taking over the world would probably disagree with that, but
Definitely, and I mean that's the thinking that has been ruling the entire world for centuries, perhaps.
Ever.
Yeah,
forever.
exactly.
Forever. And I
But
think
yeah,
that might be one of our fundamental flaws, right, as a species. Because as you said that, Paul, I was thinking, it's really disappointing and sad that fairly regular everyday folk, as we would say here in Montana, like us, are sitting here talking about like whether we should grow population, whether we should have babies or not, right? And my wife and I, we delayed for a long time, wondering like, is it like morally the right thing to do to have kids, right? And of course, that made our lives more complicated the longer we waited in doing that. Um, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit that that's a conversation we're having when we have the billionaires, right? When like, what is it, 12 people own like half the world's wealth. How is that even, how is that possible? Like that right there is the flaw of capitalism, right? Because they are capitalizing on our world. And I have gotten to the point that I think I've always been there, but billionaires just shouldn't exist. That's just not like, it's not
right.
fair. It just is not fair. That's not. That's not what this system is. It's not that capitalism is inherently wanting you to become a billionaire. I don't believe that actually is what the machine wants. The holding of power, that's a different thing, which is connected to it. But it's equal opportunity, and that's what we should be trying to figure out. And so that's why I kind of want to see, capitalism in its late stages kind of die and rebirth something more circular, something more equitable. And we've gotten into this a bit in our Discord and stuff, talking about the political landscape of things right now. And unfortunately, the oligarchy has won some things here lately, and we're going to be in it for a little while. But who knows? Maybe there's a speaking of dark, maybe there's a bit of a self-destruction that is beginning, and something good will come from that.
Yeah, I hope so. I think so too.
Hope, yes, a hope activator coming alive. Nice. Okay. Ella, anything to weigh in and add here, or would you like to jump into the regenerative elements of the bear?
I'm still gathering my thoughts.
Okay. So while you kind of work at that, a couple of things I think about in relation to the symbiotic and provocateur animals is, tigers, I think about cats, they sleep so damn much, right? And they don't give a shit. They're like, I'm going to sleep. It's like you go to the zoo and everybody wants to see like the big badass tiger or lion or something. They're always sleeping, and they don't give a shit. Like, they don't care what you came to see. They are there and they're going to sleep. And when I think about like the nature of our work, self-sustainability and breaking free of the machine mind and all that, that's kind of great. And I know, ironically, Paul, right, for you, I know you talked about in the Elf Lab the other day in the Wisdom Workshop, sleeping challenges, right? So you've got to connect to your cat, your inner cat, a little bit more somehow.
Anyhow, for sure. I already woke up at a little after 4 this morning, so.
Yeah.
Wow. And what was your average time before? Or is it always like that?
It goes back and forth. I've had days where I, slept okay or went back to sleep, but today was not one of them. Today was one of those days where the brain just kicked in as soon as I woke up and would not shut
Okay.
down.
Wow. That's a problem. Hey, I just wanted to mention, sorry, Chance,
Yeah, please.
because while we were talking, is my process was, okay, we've reached the point where we understand that we're not the ones that need to do the change, or the big corporations, basically, and the millionaires and billionaires, blah, blah, blah. But my point was directed to maybe now, like as you were saying, Chance, maybe now it's not the time to talk about these things because we've had like a progression and an evolution into anarchy, and I had to Google something, and then it showed basically that Jesus was kind of an anarchist, and what he was saying, the way he was saying it for the Romans. So it's just like my thinking, like, okay, this evolution came to anarchy, climate change, sustainability not being enough. We do the regenerative stuff, but what are the things that as change makers we can do in this kind of like time frames and spaces that can resonate and impact our circle. Let's keep it tight for now, like our circle. What are the things that we can do in these conversations besides like talking shit about the billionaires, which I love, but it's okay. Like we know they're a piece of shit, right? That's written down as you get your first billion. It's like yeah, you've earned it. But okay,
But
I mean,
what about
because I
Tay Tay
love
though?
talking
Not
shit.
Taylor Swift though. She's a sweetheart, right?
I mean, she didn't fulfill. So I mean, Trump won, so she's not for me anymore.
Oh no. Tragic.
But yeah, it's just that. Like, what are the things that we can do besides talking shit? But
Yep.
me myself, I really don't love talking shit because it's like it's for me, it's exhausting.
Yep.
What are we gonna do about it, right?
Yep. What a facilitator move there, Paul. Bringing the Wisdom Workshop stuff into the Beerverse here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and something I want to spotlight too is these we're growth gardeners here today and outside of this in this group today. What is it that we are growing as a movement, and what do we stand for, right? I've taken a pretty strong stance on never vilifying a particular person. That's why the machine is often our villain, right? And billionaires can be part of it, but even billionaires, they are a part of this machine, right? Maybe they're gatekeepers, whatever, but there are reasons why people end up being the way that they are, and it's usually a societal challenge, a problem there, right? The other thing I want to say in this, kind of leading into the shadow again, is that I think what I've come to feel is that there does need to be a reckoning, right? Of some sort, but I don't want it to be like humans infighting. I don't want it to be anarchy. I don't want it to be civil war. I don't, that's not growth or progress, right? And I guess it's why it comforts me that the Earth might be the one to do that. And we may have to go through some apocalyptic kind of experiences. But to your point, Jose, like what can we do right here and right now? And what can we do to prepare for those kinds of things? And to me, it's to always be supportive of each other, to give each other hope, to help us be resilient to those changes, and to make our small circle of influence, our wolf pack, our communities, or whatever, happier, stronger, more hopeful, contributing, productive, fulfilled. Um, Outside of that, there's what more can we do, right? We can't save whatever is coming necessarily, at least not every day, but collectively, who knows what we can build up towards. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree, and I think, you know, I, again, referencing the Health Lab from the other day, uh, I loved the exercise of, your word for the year, and I don't know if you saw my one little sentence.
I did, yeah. I'm gonna grab it and throw it in the chat.
Yeah, which I thought, if we could just do that, we would all be much happier.
And why can't we?
And why can't we? Yeah.
Apparently, I have way too many tabs open.
Uh-oh.
Wow, that is epic. Good lord. Okay. Sorry, computer. I'm just trying to grab Sean or Paul's awesome statement. Come on. It's flagging. Oh man, somebody did not do their end of the year cleanup. Holy crap. Okay, Paul, you might be in charge. I cannot open it.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Golly gee. All right, so while Provocateur does his provocative thing, Symbiotic, the turtle. So I had thought about Finding Nemo and like the jet stream, right? When they're riding the jet stream, like what a shot of energy that is in that movie. I mean, honestly, it's like probably the most memorable thing in that movie for me is just like, you know, the surfer vibe of it all and like the energy, the stoke, the like it's so rad, right? And what a cool thing to give weary travelers, right? As a freaking jet stream to shoot them along, right, and get them some momentum and take them somewhere. That's a pretty cool like change maker ability, such as a hope activator, Paul, right? Like if a hope activator could do that, right? Just a shot of hope and just like people stand up and like, all right, let's get back at it, right? Even if they're feeling a little down. Very much a cool thing. It's also that cool thing of like turtles are slow and they are clever and they know how to speed up, right? You spoke to that in yours. And then I also think about like the kind of been dancing in this like dark and light part of the regenerative process. You know, the incredible overcoming that it is for a baby turtle to like just get to the ocean, right? It's like epic. It's an epic way to start their lives. And you know, those that make it then can go on to live to be as old as humans do, right? That's wild. Older, yeah, that's crazy. Super inspiring. And yeah, it's speaking of how nature is brutal, right? They have to earn it. A lot of baby turtles die for that to take place, right? And that's another cool thing that humans have stepped in and will sometimes help facilitate to help more of them get out there, which is how we should be interacting with nature for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Go
ahead, Paul.
I think that that's true. You know, I mean, when we talk about what are things that we can do, I mean, there's a good example. Help the turtles, help restore habitats for tigers, help restore habitats for wolves.
Yep. There's another one.
You know, just, you know, not simple things necessarily because they might require some collective effort. And I firmly believe that it is collective effort and community effort that's going to, you know, help us through the next few years, as opposed to trying to do things individually. But yeah, I think that, you know, if we look at what are the things that we can do, it's, you know, maybe it's just going to the beach and picking up trash. Maybe it's just helping to restore habitats. Maybe it's planting a tree every now and then. I don't know. It may be simple things like that combined with a bunch of collective efforts with, you know, people that are doing similar kinds of work to what we're talking about here.
You know, thinking about like the kind of the self regeneration component of this too. I mean, just like going to the beach and cleaning up trash, like yes, that can be like a world saving effort or whatever, but it also can just be a trip to the beach.
Yeah.
Too, right? And that happens to be one of the things you do while you're there. And so you can kind of get a mix of like presence and serenity, but also then some like fulfillment and being of service and helping. It can kind of be all those things. I think sometimes change makers get into this mindset of like, I don't know, it's like all or nothing, right? Stop climate change or die. It starts right at the top, right? It does. It starts at that big level, and it's not healthy for us. So those are good examples of like healthy things we can do, and just have fun with it, right? I saw an Instagram page the other day. This guy that takes ocean like beach trash and turns it into artwork.
Wow.
And some really like weird and cool shit that he's making. He's a character too, so there's some like strange things going on. Some of it's kind of like profane and vulgar and stuff too, which is kind of, there's something compelling about that too, because that like under the surface gets into like, hey humans, what the fuck are we doing, kind of. But also then it's artistic and just beautiful and can be inspiring too. So it's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Ella stepped away for a minute. Okay, no problem. So I'll talk about the wolf for a minute, and then we'll kind of work our way towards evolving this into our elements of sorts, our nature elements. So, the wolf, I mean, Paul alluded to it a little bit, is like it's its own kind of regenerative story in and of itself, right? The wolf has gone through this cycle of thriving, being hunted, and being in trouble and disappearing and kind of returning. I actually played a song for Paul to open our deep in your alter ego session where we built his first sub ego. And it's Return of the Wolves. And it's like, I've been listening to that song almost daily here lately as I've been looking for a portion of my wolf to return. And funny enough, that killer instinct is what I'm looking for a little bit, actually, which is something I don't really care that much about very often, but I need it to serve me in this day. But what I think about the regenerative nature of wolves for me is comes back to that pack. There's a love that a wolf pack shares. I'm actually reading a fantasy series by T.J. Klune called the Green Creek series. It's about werewolves, but the werewolves aren't really the villains in the story. They're the heroes, and they have really close bond with their pack, and it's a very like heartwarming story about like going to all lengths to protect and preserve and the people that you love dearly. And I think for me, that's at the root of what the Veraverse is all about too. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about this at the end of our session, but it's building high quality, unbreakable bonds and relationships, which is why we're a small community still. But I'd rather start as a strong bonded wolf pack and grow upon that than become spread out, all these people coming and going and whatever. So that's kind of what it is for me. And I think I actually think about a hope activator, Paul, because it's a dog. The animal is a dog, right? And dogs are maybe one of the most wonderful examples of how humans can be regenerative in nature, because a dog's unconditional love is just this inherently regenerating thing, right?
Yeah.
Even if they're hurt and abused by their owners, they still show them kindness and love. There's this unconditional forgiveness that they'll offer as well. And that's a really special thing. And of course, wolves are the ancestors to the dog. And dogs are the way that they are in part because humans help them be that. And so if we could practice unconditional love with each other, like a dog does, wouldn't that be something?
Indeed.
I feel like you chose well, Paul, with the dog as a hope activator. You know what? We better show the group your wonderful sub ego here. Hold on a second. Bum, 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 bum.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's really cool.
What would you say about a hope activator, Paul? Anything that you want to kind of introduce your character with?
Well, I think, the conversation that we were having around it kind of centered around, thinking about my sustainability element and kind of wanting to expand on it and thinking about rivers and water and how water moves from snowpack to brook to stream to river to ocean, and that there's hope in that. There's like movement in that, and that and then we started thinking about well, what animal identifies with that, and dogs came immediately to mind for me. Um, for many of the reasons that Chance just articulated, but also, you know, um, dogs kind of love the water. Or most dogs do anyway, not all, but most dogs love the
Okay.
water. They love to be in the water, and they love to move with the water, and so yeah, and and part of it too is that I've been saying for a while, even right after the election, not to get back into the politics stuff of things, but that we need hope right now. We can't afford to live in despair. We need to activate hope, and so that's where I think a hope activator kind of came from, and I would love to trying to figure out how to lean more into that and be more of a hope activator. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I would say about it for the moment, anyway.
So that's a pretty good segue into kind of the next piece of this. Before we go to that, as we kind of like forward in ways to harness our regenerative nature in a sense. Just a note on the sub-ego, since honestly, I don't know how much I've talked to Jose and Ella about this, funny enough, given that they're a part of our Viridescent team, so it's long overdue. It's this thing that I've been playing with, honestly, for a little over a year now, as something to kind of fill out underneath the alter ego, because to be able to achieve our alter ego, which is this returning home to ourself and to getting to like kind of have this moment of choosing who we want to be, right? Recognizing that the status quo and our upbringing and our culture and our race, our location, our education, all these things kind of shape us into this person. We have choice all along that way, hopefully, anyway. Not, I guess not all of us do, actually. White privileged guy talking here, yikes. But even me, right? I was on the path to corporate leader and realized like I don't really want to do this. In order to have that moment of recognition, the alter ego kind of helps us with that first part. But then to actually implement the change and transformation that is required to fill out the understanding of who we are, to kind of find this like self-actualization of sorts, we need to understand the different parts of ours. And no one identity can capture that, right? And so the sub-egos come into play to kind of help us meet the different parts of ourselves. And so an example being is like, provocateur, are you hopeful every second, every moment, every day?
No.
Probably not. Right? And so that's the idea, is that a hope activator it's a state that of you that is often there but often not there, right? But having that sub-ego there is like, okay, I need hope, I want hope right now. Hope activator, help me find it, right? Or I'm really vibing, really resonating, like help me elevate it. And you spoke to that, right? So yeah, sub-ego is something that is available to people to build as we go. So stay tuned on more of that to come. And you did it in your free growth gardening alter ego session, right? Which was pretty fun. So what I'd like to transition to now is we've used our animals. Paul just introduced the water element of his sub-ego specifically. I know your regular alter ego is the garden, right? And kind of the gardening piece of it. So there's that inherent growth element of it. So you can go either way. You can go water, you can go garden. But I want to lean into our elements, and then we're going to tie that into our regenerative philosophy frameworks. But first, we're just going to focus on our simple elements that we have for our animals. So, Jose, right? You've got water, and Ella has fire. I have glaciers. Paul has either garden or water. How do those elements give us regenerative notes? What do they do? How are they regenerative?
I mean, also, as Paul said, just thinking about water and its movement, right? So from glaciers to rivers and two oceans, I think water is basically essential to life. So I think it goes around everything for me.
Hmm. Is there anything more regenerative than water? I'm not sure that there is.
As like water as what? As a molecule or as a volume?
Oh, you scienced me. I mean, I think
Yeah,
about,
because then you
right.
would say it's hydrogen and oxygen because they together combine
That's
water.
why I
So
love
I
this
think that's
guy.
what I,
Yeah. Our resident scientist on the team. Honestly, we don't take advantage of that enough, I don't think. Uh,
do
yeah, I
so.
mean, I think, well, I don't know. I mean, you're getting into the very, very like lowest root of these things, right? And so as I think about it in a slightly different way, I just think about like where there is water, there is life, right?
Right.
And um, I don't know that there's anything else that's quite that simple and powerful, right?
Well, you could take it down to that molecular level though that Jose was
Hmm.
talking about, because I forget what the percentage is, but we're a high percentage of water
Right.
ourselves.
70
Right.
something.
And what is it, Jose?
70 something, I guess, like 73, 75. Let me
Yeah,
check that.
yeah. So yes, without water, there would be no life.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
It's about 60% water.
So because the element tends to be a little bit more of like a proactive practice, it is like an elemental philosophy, right? What are some of the things we can do with water that give us personal regeneration?
Drink it.
That would be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and the one that I strive for most of the times is being conscious of water. So, for example, um, I stopped running the water when I'm brushing my teeth many, 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 many years ago.
Mm.
This was something that I introduced also to my partner, and I said like, hey, maybe we can like use less water because you're not actually brushing your teeth. You're not drinking the water, you're using the water, you're just brushing your teeth. Um, and that applies for everything, right? So it's like there's some leftover water, I put it into plants rather than just putting it into the sink or whatever. So it's being conscious about it. Like it's limitless, sort of, but there's no need for it to be like a huge expense of water just for your own sake.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, um, you know, especially when you live in an area that is prone to drought, as California
Correct.
can be on occasion. And certainly desert areas are prone to drought. And lots of places in the world right now are experiencing drought. Um, that consciousness about water and how you use water is kind of vital, right?
It is.
So, pro tip from a water master: the deliberate life force. Her element is water. Her planet in the Viraverse is called Aura, and it is a planet of water, a water planet. Um, she mentioned something. I don't know. It was just like in passing or casually. It seems so simple to her, and I was just like, "That is a brilliant idea." When we're warming up the shower, put a bucket underneath the shower and then use that bucket to like wash dishes with or whatever, right? I just like never thought about that. I always hated that like, warming up the shower. I'm like kind of want to just like get in there, but it's hard to step right into a cold shower, Um, and yeah, it was genius, total
Karen,
genius.
Karen and I do that, and we use that water to
Yeah.
flush the toilet. Actually, just pour the big bucket in real fast, and it flushes the toilet.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. Cool. Um, Couple of personal regeneration things around water for me. I suppose glaciers are, they are water. But what I love, and I guess there's a there's a connection here actually now as I think about it. I absolutely love and am addicted to cold plunging. Oh my God, is it just? It's like a drug. It is. It is such a drug. And if I'm feeling really shitty, whether it be like chronic issues in my back and physical, or just kind of like scattered, unfocused, whatever, cold plunging into a lake, for example, because I have one, luckily, in the dead of winter, it'll wake your ass up. It'll get you going. And it hurts going in, but it feels absolutely incredible going out. And I've started becoming kind of an advocate and kind of like that annoying cold plunging guy about this, that because everybody's like, I could never do that. I'm like, it will change your life. It is a part of healing my nerve pain in my back. It is absolutely incredible, the regeneration that it has given me. So does anybody else cold plunge?
You know, when I go to Scotland, we jump in the lock,
Yeah.
freezing lock every morning.
Yep.
I
Nice.
don't do it on a regular basis because I don't have a lock right near me. I would have to drive somewhere to
Mm-hmm.
do it. But yeah, I have always loved the idea of cold plunges as well. I can't stay in for very long, but
Sure.
but you know, 3 minutes, 5 minutes sometimes.
That's quite a long time, actually. Right? I
Definitely.
mean, depending on the temperature of the water, even like 30 seconds can be sufficient. So pushing
Yeah,
into
yeah,
3 to 5 minutes can be, yeah.
yeah. Well, we don't go in the wintertime. Wintertime cold plunging would be very different than
Yeah, yeah, it
summertime
is.
cold plunging. But yeah, it's completely regenerative. I've had times where my feet have had a little bit of a gout flare up, or I'm just not feeling great, and I go jump in that lock, man, and it just like wakes my whole body up, and I'm like ready to go.
Nice. Yeah, heck yeah. Oh, Jose, cold plunger?
I was in the Navy, so I can't say
Okay,
that
yeah.
I had a daily cold plunge in the morning for shower.
Yeah.
Um, but well, there's this love and hate relationship with water and me. It's not that I don't shower, of course, but I love it. I just love it. Like whenever I get wet, it's this uncomfortable feeling. I guess it's kind of like with one of my past lives, I probably died, like drowned or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really think that because it's like it's really interesting my relationship with water. I love it. I find it extremely necessary, but it like I don't get along with it. I don't swim either, actually. It's like one of
Okay.
the things that you
Mm.
should do because it's like great for everyone, for everything, but I kind of don't like it. I don't like the feeling of like floating in
Mm.
some liquid, right? It's like I can manage
Ah.
being in a can, like in a pressurized can, like 10,000 feet up in the air. I'm fine with it. But like me being inside of a liquid environment, I think that's the thing.
Is that a fear of water? Because there is something to having a healthy fear of any nature
Right.
element.
I would say it's kind of a fear because it affected me in ways like I had to swim because I was in the Navy and just my mind kind of like blocked me and I just got all stiff and I couldn't like swim anymore. It was a tryout, so gosh, a Navy cadet almost not being able to finish the swimming competition. So that was complicated for me. So I guess there is some notes of fear to it. But I love water. I love drinking water. I love being around water. But yeah, my body and water don't really get along. Maybe it's my mind, and then it reflects on my body. So
Do you see a path to shifting that relationship with water, or is that just you just think it kind of is?
I want to make a healthy relationship with water, of course, because I mean, if I died, drowned, because I do believe in reincarnations. So I won't say anything more about that, but I do believe in it.
You're
And
welcome to. This is a safe space. You're welcome to do it. But
if I did, I need to solve it because otherwise I'm just gonna keep on going and just be fearing this element which is so vital.
You might come back as a fish.
I might come back as a fish. Yep.
That would change your attitude towards water.
Or maybe I'm a suicide fish who actually just wants to be up in the air and can't stand water. So I mean,
get me
same
out
thing.
of this.
Yeah, I'm out, boys.
There's this really cool children's book that we read, or we read to our kids. I can't remember what it's called. It's about like a unicorn narwhal, it's so basically like the story starts that it's a unicorn that has like a bubble helmet on, and it lives with the narwhals under the sea, and it like thinks it's a narwhal. And at one point, it like gets up at the surface or whatever. It sees this beautiful unicorn standing out on a cliff, and it's like drawn to it, and it doesn't know why, right? And so then it like goes on this quest to find the unicorns, and the it does that, and then like but then it misses its kind of narwhal home, and right, and so it goes back and visits, and it like breaks the news to his narwhal family, and uh, you know, like I'm actually not a narwhal, I'm a unicorn, and their response is like, well, of course you are, like we know that, but we love you whatever you want to be, right? And that's kind of the moral of the story. It's really quite a nice thing, yeah. Bit of an aside. So I have a story that I want to actually read to you at some point. I guess I gotta step away and grab my book, but it is about if you guys are interested in hearing it, it's about me healing kind of an irrational fear of something. Not to say your fear is irrational, because there are reasons to be afraid of things, including bugs, which was something that I held at one point, and how I pushed into it and leaned into it. And I think about a story actually that the Meliorist shared with us in our last Wonderland event about buffalo and bison, and how they band together and kind of in their herd, and they go right into the eye of the storm. And knowing that if they push into the storm, they'll get on the other side of it faster, right? Rather than letting it bear down upon them. There's a note of that too. So yeah. Jose, we're gonna help you make water you're gonna be a water dancer here before too long. Be like water bending like Avatar or something.
That would be cool.
Cool. Okay. Well, before the end of the session, I'll go get my book and I'll read my little story. But we've been on water for a little while. Anything else to add before we shift to another element from the group? No, Ella kind of bounced in and out there for a little bit. Ella, would you like to share your regenerative views on fire at all?
Okay. I know. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay. So, we don't really have fire outbreaks over here in this part of the world, and I know that that's something that happens frequently. That even though that's an unfortunate thing for us humans, but for nature, I learned that that helps to clear out like the debris and also puts nutrients back into the soil to bring out more um like plants, new plants, fresh plants and all that, which is something very fascinating for me to see. And which also makes me wonder if that's also Mother Nature's way of taking back what has by chasing us away from that part of the environment. So yeah, that's just what I've been thinking about.
That touches on an interesting kind of theme we've talked about of just like you know, the kind of the real heavy like shadow and darkness around sustainability issues and things like we will sometimes get really devastated by the fire activity, right? And there's reasons to do so, of course. Like Paradise, California, burned to the ground. That's tragic, right? Animals die in these fires, and you know, and wildfires are a direct kind of inflated thing from global warming and climate changes and stuff. But it is the earth adjusting, right? These forests that burn will be more resilient to these rising temperatures when they come back, and that in and of itself is a good and beautiful thing and a powerful thing. And so there's a lot of like hope in that like, and sometimes like bad shit has to happen, right? That's human life. When really crappy things happen to us, that's sometimes where the greatest growth comes. My journey the last year or so speaks to that. I know that well here lately, and I think we all have stories of that in our life. So yeah, fire is a powerful thing.
Yeah. So that means like there has to be some form of balance, like basically a give and take situation. We can't just keep on taking and taking and taking. At some point, there's going to be some form of retaliation. It makes me remember a video that I saw where there were cars parked in front of this massive wall, and then the wall just broke apart, and you see all these trees and vegetation pouring into the car park. So it begs the question of at some point do we stop degrade? Like, is it not enough?
Mm. Jose, we're back to anarchy. Let's just burn it all down.
I mean, we can have a healthy anarchy. It's just it's how we see anarchy in the eyes of capitalism, maybe. Because basically the origin of anarchy is just living in harmony, right? Living in a natural harmony. So yeah, there's a lot of bad things with anarchy, but there's also like a thinking process, like a philosophical approach to it that speaks to not being like comfortable with the status quo right now, and therefore we should burn it
Right.
to make a better one, so that it doesn't sound so bad at the end.
I will say though that there are definitely some positive aspects to fire. I mean, it's warming, keeps you warm. You can
Yeah.
cook. You can cook with it, so it has a regenerative quality in terms of nutrition and being able to actually keep your body alive to some degree between warmth and food. So there are definitely some positive sides to fire as well.
Mm.
And it's just interesting that in lots of ways, again, human beings have uh, used fire in destructive kinds of ways throughout the
Isn't
century.
that ironic? Fire's kind of why we are in existence.
Yeah,
Not as we are today, but that
right.
we are in existence today because we discovered fire to keep us alive, right? Like truly
Yeah.
to keep us alive. And then we took, as humans do, we took it to the nth degree, right? And we're like, how can we maximize, capitalize? It's like God.
Well, and
Um,
if you think about it, we have turned a natural element of fire into fossil fuel fire, which is how we cook
that's right.
now for the most part,
That's
and
right.
in some parts of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's sustainify this a little bit and talk about like the healthy components of fire, because that's kind of what Paul is sprouting here a little bit. Is
Yeah.
I mean, think about the campfire and the incredible like social ritual that is sitting around a campfire with friends, right? And cooking in it. Like I cooked pancakes over the campfire with my son on his first camping trip, and it's a memory that just like talking about it, I get choked up thinking about it, because he just thought it was like the coolest thing that's ever happened in the history of his life, right? Which of course, 3-4 year old always think that, but it was special. That goes beyond, that transcends. And for rituals, I know for me, our house that we have has a wood stove, and it has become it's like my sanctuary. I have a lot of rituals I do with that, and including like making French press coffee on it, making tea on it, and boiling the water, and like I'm so much more connected to it. And like when I've let that fire get hot, I've let the water get warm, and I make the coffee, and then I sit down in front of it and drink my coffee. It's like there's no more peaceful place in my day than that moment right there, right? Or being out on the ski hill all day working, and like kind of cold and wet and whatever, and coming home and getting in front of that fire. I see Jose nodding. You guys get rain, right? And that's your fire
Yeah,
thing, is like dry when it's
we have
wet,
one.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is awesome. And you know what? That smoke that's coming out of my chimney that maybe contributes to climate change a little bit, I don't give a fuck in that moment. Do I burn it all day every day? No, right? We've got heat to heat our offices while my wife and I work from home or whatever, so we don't burn it all day every day. But as a ritual space and a family space, it's so worth it. It just is.
And it's so interesting that, like in California, you cannot have an
And
open
it's
an open
yeah,
fire, or
Right.
even burn wood in your fireplace in most places.
yeah. And
You
the thing is that you shouldn't be able to, because we've taken it too far, right? And the air quality around that. It's the same thing in like Missoula,
Yeah.
Montana, right? You can't burn because of the inversions and the air quality that it creates.
exactly.
And it's just such a good example of like when we do things degeneratively, we lose some of the most regenerative things, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And going back to water, when we dam rivers, we
Yeah.
generate. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you can
Yeah.
almost look at almost every element and see some level of regeneration and degeneration.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
I like thinking that the elements are always transformative, and I think that fire is the one that gives the example the most. Taking on what Ella was saying, and also feeding from Paul, this movement of fire, right? Wildfires just expand and they move and they transform the ecosystem that was there, and then it sprouts something else, something different with more nutrients. Yes, of course.
Mhm.
Then there's the smoke that goes out, the extreme heat that comes out of that, and but if we just minimize it to a wood burning stove, it's minimal, but at the same time it's transformative because it changes your mood, it changes your temperature, it changes the environment, it goes from being cold to being warm, and warmth is what gives us that coziness, and it's transformative, right? If you sit down in a bonfire with friends and you have fire, it's a transformative moment, and you share experiences in that moment. It's like, hey, we did this in a bonfire with fire. The element kind of made us evolve into something and transform into what we are now. But of course, um the misuse of it impacts, and we have to be aware of it and just be accountable for that too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I think it's safe to say there'll be a campfire too at our retreat in June, Paul.
yeah. I'm sure there will be.
Hopefully Jose and Ella will be able to join us around that campfire. Um, yeah, fire. Nice. Okay. Um, glaciers. Ooh, glaciers. You know, there's so much about the glacier that I find to be, well, it's no different really than what we've been talking about. There's a regenerative story to it, and there's a degenerative piece to it, right? And of course, the common denominator is always the human piece of that, right? But what I love about glaciers so much is that they literally have an equilibrium point, right? It's like, as somebody who has always pursued a sense of balance in my life, and I suppose it's like at the root of the infinity logo of Viridescent, right? The original hand-drawn logo by the creator's wife, Shaylee, um, uh, is this pursuit of something balanced, and that can be, a physical strength balance and being able to do all the things that I love to do, including skiing on the frozen form or the fluffy snow form of water. But and someday maybe skiing a glacier. That is something I would like to do that I've never done. I've been on glaciers, but I've never skied one. I have slid down one on my back though, in Glacier National Park. But I was sliding down a dying glacier, Speary Glacier, and is past its equilibrium point, and it is not going to refill itself anymore. But there's something so close and powerful to the glacier relationship for me around this equilibrium point. It is like what I want to leave the world with is something that feels like a sense of balance. And I suppose that's at the root of this self-sustainability regenerative philosophy kind of way of being a change maker, being a person. The glaciers are just, They're the thermometer for Earth's livable climate for humans too, right? Like they literally tell us whether we're in balance or not. Like I don't know if there's anything on this Earth that is more important for us to listen to and be close to than a glacier. Um, Shit, I want to go to a glacier real bad. I'm gonna go. Maybe I'm gonna go snowshoeing in the glacier park this winter and go see one. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, I'm hoping to be on one and see one because I'm planning a trip to New Zealand for my 75th birthday. Um, and one of the activities is, going to a glacier. So, uh, yeah, I'm looking
Do
forward.
you know which one?
I don't remember the name of it. I'd have to look back.
Is it Franz Josef or Fox
Oh, yeah,
Glacier?
it is Franz Josef. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't go on Franz Josef, but I did go on Fox Glacier. But they're right next to it. They're a part of the same area. And Franz Josef, that area is I think the only place in the world where there is a rainforest and a glacier on the same mountain.
Yeah. Glaciers are so cool. I mean, one of my great experiences was kayaking in Glacier National and Glacier Bay in Alaska.
Oh, Glacier Bay. I haven't been. I want to so bad. I've seen so many pictures of that place.
We camped right across from the biggest glacier, and man, when it would calve at night and just rumble, it would just be like, talk about the earth shaking. It was like truly a mystical experience for sure. And unfortunately, I think those glaciers are also receding quite heavily and
Yeah.
not the same as when I was there in the 70s.
Yep. Yep. Um. hmm. Is it weird that when you say that, there's like a note of sadness, right? I could feel it, but then my mind immediately flips over to, yeah, but what the next wave of glaciers look like, right? When they're reborn, right? Because there's always going to be that, at least I think so. I don't know that our Earth could, well, unless the sun starts to eat us, I guess that maybe we, but that's a ways off. Not too worried about that timeline. Um, and I think that's because glaciers they're so important to the way the Earth shapes itself and creates life, right? Like they're like a temperature control of sorts, and of course, as they melt away, we get hotter, and they'll come back. They'll be back someday. I don't think I'll be around to see it, but they'll come back. Well, maybe it will. I don't know. We got into reincarnation. Jose, what do you think? Maybe I'll come back as Glacier. Maybe they're more mystical than we realize.
I mean, also about like believing in reincarnations. I also believe in like alternative parallel universes. So
of
you
course
can
you
always
do.
just wake up
Yes.
if you do at some point. But yeah, I mean, what is reality and how do we perceive it and how do we create it and who is our creator and why do we exist are the questions that every single day in the morning I just wake up on.
What the hell are we gonna do with that for the next 13 minutes? What did you just do?
I think my therapy, like my session today, just gave me a lot of
Oh,
ADHD feelings, and I'm just all about it. I'm all about it right now.
I love it. That's kind of interesting too, is to take it back to your turtle. If you've got the ADHD vibe, but imagine a turtle doesn't have that, right? There's something kind of aspirational in Jose's alter ego, right? Like you have the water, and I don't know, Jose, that you've talked about the like the kind of apprehension around water much that I can ever remember. I don't ever remember you
I
doing
remember, yeah, having the conversation with Aurora. I think
that.
we
Okay, so you did
spoke
it.
to
Okay.
that a little bit. Yeah, that was
Was that
ages
in
ago.
the Origins workshop?
No, at the beginning, like at the very beginning when we met,
Okay.
2021 probably.
Aurora. I wonder what was that? Was that was it her podcast episode
Yeah,
maybe?
Yeah, it was a podcast
Ah,
episode.
yeah, okay, cool. Okay, yeah, I don't remember that specific piece. What a flashback in time that is. Um, that's kind of a cool note on something that I'm gonna touch on before I kind of wrap up and close today too. Um, let's talk about the garden for a second, Paul. Since we haven't really touched on it too much, tell us about the regenerative elements of the garden.
Well, I mean, again, the garden is also, a place of creation and destruction because it goes through cycles of uh, seasonal things where we're constantly pulling stuff out, putting new stuff in. Um, we are feeding ourselves out of the garden sometimes. We've got fruit trees. We've got, I think the thing I've talked most about and think about most is that, the garden is its own little ecosystem. It's like a microcosm of the world at large. We've got bees, we've got butterflies, we've got birds, we've got
Mhm.
worms, we've got squirrels, we've got all kinds of little creatures like possums and raccoons running through, and um, and so it's its own little ecosystem that kind of feeds itself and feeds us, and um, it's also a quiet place to sit sometimes, and it's also a very noisy place when it gets really windy. So it just has like all these elements that you see out in nature anyway, uh, just compressed into a little microcosm of its own. And I think that's kind of what I love about it.
And what a beacon for this thing we're reaching for, in honor of Jose's planet symbiosis, that relationship between humans and a garden, right? And that's like an example of how we can use nature for regenerative purposes. But of course, we take that too far with big agriculture, right? And so, my challenge to all of us in this year, right, as we kind of lean into Paul's hope activator sub ego, is to be beacons for how to do things regeneratively, right? So, like for me, right, use the fire for healthy practices, but don't burn it all day every day, right? And
Mm.
pump out that smoke all day long, right? For so that's my challenge to you. How can you guys take your element and do something very regenerative with it in this year? What would that look like? What goals do you have? And you can answer it today, or you can take it out with you and circle back around. But if you have something immediate, feel free to share it.
I I know my element is water, but what I've been really working on and experiencing with is furniture, so wood or
Uh,
trees. Or I don't know
uh,
what the element itself would be, but I
I can
love
help
the
with that.
interaction.
Keep going.
I love the interaction I can have with wood in terms of restoration, renovation. I've done a couple of things here with Singer sewing machines and also like my bedroom. I've been remodeling it, and it just gives me pleasure. It gives me this feeling of comfortness and feeling, yeah, just comfortable and just feeling that I belong in a place. And I love how furnitures and wood itself just can give that character and can give that note of inner peace when it's inside of the house. It was just like a huge cement block with wallpaper, so it wasn't really inviting and cozy, and we just did it like that. I love it. I want to keep working and interacting with the restoration part of life for furnitures.
Oop, I was on mute. So let's go to the board here for a second. And what I'd like each of you to do is to pick for this year, for now, just one. You can add in others as you go, but pick one of these elements that you see, right? So they're around the inner ring here, for your year, that you really want to wield. And the actual nature element might not be the thing that calls to you, right? It might be the more human element that follows it, right? The winds of change. I could see for you, Paul, potentially, right? A hope activator may really lean into this idea of being the winds of change. We're supposed to be, scared of tyrannical oligarchies in power. And you're like, no, absolutely not. And you might be that wind of change for somebody to help them see a different perspective. So I think Jose, I think about in what you just shared. I'd go to earth ethic, right? The earth ethic seems to be very like kind of grounded, soil based. Plants often vibe in here. Would be a piece there, and kind of making ethical furniture of sorts, right? Might be the vibe. And you just talked about a general desire to be, contributing to regenerative stuff, regenerative stories, right? That there's an earth ethic to being the storyteller of regenerative stories, as you are. So yeah, Paul, any of these stick out to you?
Yeah, no, winds of change is like what kind of like popped
Did
out
I
to me.
nail it? Nice, I nailed it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Ella, what about you? Thunderous talents, flower your freedom. Yeah, and you've been doing a good job with that, Jose, here as of late, right? You kind of broke away from the machine, and you've been doing some self work, right? You're muted, Ella. Sorry if you were speaking. Yeah, go ahead and unmute. Love to hear from you. Still muted.
I wonder if she can hear us.
Right.
I can't unmute. Weird. I just clicked the ask to unmute button. I said too. Okay. Well, if you want to share in the chat, then I guess that's weird. I don't know. I can't like make you unmute. Unfortunately, I can only ask. Do not have the power to control your privacy, which is probably for the best if we're being honest. All right. Okay, so for me, thunderous talents kind of speaking to me a little bit. I'm seeking an unbreakable confidence to kind of transcend some things that have been holding me and us back with Viridescent. So I think thunderous talents is what I'm leaning towards. I'm done with powerful patience. I've been patient enough. I'm done being patient. I'm over it. Glad I can make you laugh, Paul. You know what I'm talking about. All right. So as we work our way to a close, I want to share the story that I alluded to, because what I want to call upon us all to do in this year is to be bold a little bit. And I like that today's session is our small kind of core group of trust. My year or my word of the year for 2024 is to trust. Trust in those around me, to trust in myself, and kind of trust this wolf pack mentality of sorts. Jose, Ella, and I had a really great team meeting to kick off the year yesterday, and we're committed to really creating content this year and growing the business, because we're in a little echo chamber. We're in this small little thing, and it's just so obviously and clearly the thing that's holding us back, right? And I get frustrated when we don't take next big steps and whatnot, but it's because we're relying upon a community that is just too damn small. It's just so. And we first started, we were bold with our content, and we really went out there hard, and I really enjoyed it. I remember with the researcher, her and I creating tons and tons of social media content, and it worked. We met some of the people that are still in this community today. Jose, you're one of them, right? Met you on Wonderland, right? Tom and MCK, met them on Clubhouse. Like Kirpa met at a trade show because I was out there building alter egos for people, and she was like, "What is happening?" And she like poked in, and then all of a sudden she was a huge part of what we were doing. So we're gonna do it, but I will say I'm scared of it, because I get discouraged when people don't engage, don't like, or even criticize. I have a hard time with it, and that is a part of this gig that I'm not very good at. But I am good at creating story and sharing things with people. And so what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on creating ways for people to engage in our community proactively. And so rather than being out there selling, like packages and offerings and this, that, or the other thing as a priority, we're going to go out there and sell this event. Hey, free Wonderland event, you got to be there. And we'll have all this content and things that will show people so they can experience it. Because when people touch and taste what we do, they get pretty inspired, right? And then and now we have better ways to keep them engaged through like the growth garden and our other offerings. So as we get ready to close, I want to share a story of a time where I pushed into fear. And Jose, this will be, I suppose, to inspire your water discomfort or dis-ease a little bit. So this is kind of a graphic narrative story about my son's first camping trip. So my son and I snuggled up into the tent for his first night of sleep with one of his Nature Explorer books, and it was about bugs. I was really excited about this because my son is currently navigating a love-fear relationship with bugs. So then I take a minute to tell a story. Bugs, friend or foe? Are you afraid of bugs? Maybe you even hate them. Maybe you're just kind of uncomfortable around them. I know I did at one point. Not all of them, mind you, but some of the usual suspects for sure. Spiders, ants, stink bugs, flies, mosquitoes, ticks, wasps, hornets, bees. Yeah, that's my greatest shame in life, my fear of bees of all things. As my sustainability work started reconnecting me to my roots, to the foundation of my love for nature, I found some things I didn't love. Dislike for bugs was one of them. This confronted me on a hike in Utah one day. I was at the summit of that day's particular hike, looking for a place to drop into yoga. All I could find was bugs everywhere, ants especially. Maximum frustration forced an awakening and a question or two. Where does my bug fear come from? Why do I dislike them so much? So I decided to confront the shadows of this toxic relationship with our little creepy crawly foes. I placed the yoga mat on flat ground full of them, and we spent over 2 hours together. Them highly curious about this giant creature, and me determined to control my fear, to be one with them, to be them, and finding the source of my judgments for them. The beginning was tough. As they crawled onto the mat, my discomfort was immediate. As they crawled across my feet, between my toes, and landed on me, I had such an urge to throw them off, to flick them away. But an epiphany arrived. That's what humanity does to bugs. They're a nuisance, a pest, lesser than us. And this brought sadness, shooting me into the depths of my questions and role in perpetuating this human bug problem. How could a nature lover like me treat living creatures with such disdain? How could I view anything in nature as lesser than me? So question number one was, where does it come from? Ants. I was a kid at the lake and felt a painful pinching in my swim trunks. An ant was trapped and biting me in a place you do not want that to happen. That was scary. Wasp, hornet, bees. A kid climbing hay bales in a barn stuck my hand inside a crack and got lit up by a nest of wasps. Ow. Spiders. Woke up in the middle of the night and saw one of the biggest spiders I've ever seen in a house to this day crawling across my best friend Abram's forehead. We screamed and ran out of the room. Stink bugs. They were always finding their way into my high school bedroom, like everywhere. I could find 5 to 10 of them in a day during the fall. All pretty understandable reasons to hold some element of fear for them. But as my yoga with the bugs continued, the curiosity grew. I now had them on my legs and chest, and I used my breath to keep some sense of control and calm. But goddamn was I uncomfortable. I started thinking about the relationship between that fear and hate. Do we hate everything we fear? I don't think so. That would not be so good. But when that happens, the result could almost never be a positive thing. My son actually started using the word hate recently. Mom took a hard stance as it being a word we should almost never use. Funny because we also think that's kind of funny when he sings bullshit in a Billie Eilish lyric. Yeah, our 4-year-old. Thanks, Paul, for the microphone, by the way. I agree with her. Hate is not helpful, at least not very often, especially when directed at a person or people, and it never is in that case. So where does the bug hate come from? So many around me have always wanted them killed. Kill them dead, I heard recently. In the workplace, in the house, they have no place. It's a cultural distaste. They cause us pain, bites, stings, illness, disease. We hate things that cause us pain and we fear them. It's a living threat. That's why we've built walls between us and nature. They can attack our food. Fucking pests. They are beneath us, physically and psychologically. As I mentioned earlier, they're lesser than us and a bit of a nuisance, right? At least that is what I've come to sense, feel, and observe at a human level. For me, I have anger and rage sourced from generational and childhood trauma. That tends to want a victim. Those who can't defend themselves tend to be the easiest targets. I have to think many a bug has been killed as a consequence of pain in humans across this earth. It's a weird little satisfying thing to stomp on a bug, right? It's beneath us. We can bully it, kill it. At this point, I'm well over an hour into my yoga session. Many bugs have come and gone across many parts of my being, body and mind. I've come to this place of remarkable calm. I stop thinking and just gaze. I listen to their humble sounds, a little buzzing, and realize our tiny little world is a beautiful place, magical even. They're kind of cute, sweet even. They're brave in a world so much bigger than them. So many die every day in service of our ecosystems. They're humble. They are life that sustains all of life, that supports us. Why would we kill them for our extra comforts? Why would we kill them for any reason at all, really? This was the day I became friends with bugs. Besides ticks and mosquitoes. Kill them dead. Bugs are the best. See how strong that ant is, Milo? Isn't that ladybug adorable? If I hold really still, see how this bee will say hello. Not everything we're afraid of is bad.
No. You do know that the Jains, the religion Jainism, they do everything. They go out of their way to avoid killing anything, including bugs.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't sound like a bad philosophy.
No,
Pretty regenerative, in fact.
exactly.
All right, well, we're all going to go follow that religion. Paul's converting us. He's a secret conversion therapist. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. So take your nature element with you that you chose today. And if you have a couple, that's cool too. And write me something. Send me an email. Actually, write it in whatever way you want. And then we're going to create a Google Doc and we'll put it into there. So typing is good, probably ideally. But you can also take pictures of handwritten notes if that's your jam. And we will start to curate a regenerative philosophy coming to life through the lens of everybody's alter egos. So that is due 1 week from today. How about that?
Cool.
All right. Later, my friends. That was fun.
Thanks.
Later.